aspects Mars in the birth chart. So this is for everyone who have close aspect, which are two types of aspects. The easy aspects, which are the trine and sextile. They usually matter within 5-6 degrees. And the hard aspect, which will be felt much more strongly between Pluto and Mars, which are, I would give them 6 to 7 degrees aspect, which are the opposition, 180 degrees from each other. The planets sitting opposite each other in your horoscope. The planets sitting together, that's the most intense one, the conjunction. And the planets sitting when Mars and Pluto sit in a square aspect, which is one of the difficult aspects again. And if you don't know what kind of aspect you have between Mars and Pluto, you're welcome to put your birth info in the in the birth chart calculator, for which I'm giving a link here. And then go, once you enter everything, you don't need to know your time of birth, it is okay. You don't need that. And then once you have the birth chart generated, scroll below to the planetary detail table and just give me the sign and degree of Pluto, which is the planet on the bottom, and the sign and degree of Mars. Let's say Pluto 25, Libra, Mars 21, Aries. That's the opposition, And I'll tell you if you have an aspect. And what's the difference between the easy and the hard aspect? Everything that I speak about, this aspect, people with the easy aspect will also feel it. They might also experience it. But they'll always be able to turn the situation around in their use. It's like they've learned the karmic lessons from past lives of Pluto and Mars. And they come with the knowledge how to handle those energies. So they usually, even if they get themselves in difficult situations through Pluto and Mars, and attract such, they're able to quickly transform those and, get out of those difficult situations. While the difficult aspects, it persists throughout life, and it demands much more consciousness and awareness to handle it, because if you just act without consciousness and awareness, then you'd attract the more difficult manifestation. So what is Pluto Mars like? Well, Mars, first of all, is our willpower. How we can manifest our willpower, the things that we really want and desires, how can we express it? And when we want to do something, how can we express it? And Pluto is this really karmic planet. Pluto is the planet of control. Pluto is the planet of domineering and subtle or direct control. Pluto is the planet of abuse even. So often those people from early childhood were in an environment where the person with the most strength had the power. Basically the power of the mighty one, the power of the, basically the law of the jungle almost. They kind of grew up in such environment. Maybe there was a parent who was suppressing their will when they wanted to express what they want or to do something, which is Mars, some Plutonian figure. This is the hard aspects in particular. They would definitely identify with that if it's close aspect. Some Plutonian figure would kind of either totally forcefully forbid them to do this with total disregard for their will, or they would force them to do something they didn't want. So there is a lot of this, forcefulness that they experience. And often, while they're still young, till around 25, 30 years of age, people with Mars, Pluto, especially the hard aspects, they might feel their willpower might feel frozen. Their willpower, they might feel like basically worthless and like they cannot do anything that can go right because their willpower was in the mind. It's kind of similar to Mars, Saturn, but it's on a deeper level even. It's more psychological. Even the person might not be so aware of it. And often they might, while they're younger, feel frozen in their actions, and they might feel weak and, so fearful in the face of certain challenges that they freeze, and they might be stuck for years, not able to, out of fear what their actions will engender, what their actions can, or if their actions can at all be useful, they might be, or impactful, they might be afraid even to act, But the universe keeps bringing them challenging situations, in a sense, the ones that, and they introvert this Mars. When you introvert Mars, And when you introvert, even your anger, because often with Pluto Mars, you are not even allowed to express your anger as a child, but there was a lot of anger around you, especially anger which is based on sexual frustration around parents, because Pluto has very sexual undertones, and so does Mars. And often this anger is suppressed within, and anger is the thing that moves us to act and to, anger is such a mobilizing energy, and if we suppress it, we introvert it, it turns into suppressed anger, and it turns into self-harm. And a lot of these people, if they've turned anger inwardly, if their will was thwarted and they were afraid to express it, and especially in the early part of age, they can become self-destructive. There are often indications, like Robert Downey Jr. has the conjunction of Mars and Pluto, and he had destructive habits. Johnny Depp as well, he also had destructive habits. Quite a few people, I haven't looked at all the celebrities, but anyway, just giving you a few. Russell Brand had the opposition, also destructive habits, self-destructive. Because when this Mars cannot go out to act out in the world, this anger that provokes activity, and also your willpower, when it's by Pluto, when it's suppressed in some way, it turns into self-destructive actions very often. These people might do self-harm at a certain point in their life. They might drink, they might take drugs, and this is due to this guilt or shame or feeling that they're powerless in a sense. But Pluto transforms. So sooner or later, the life will put you in situations which challenge you to express your anger. If you subvert it inside, you'll detract it from outside. If you kind of introvert it, such people often with Pluto Mars, especially the hard aspect, will attract this anger and this violent nature of Mars from outside. So they might attract bullies. They might have attracted even physical attack. This is the combination of rape. We're going to talk about sexuality later on, and physical violent abuse. It doesn't always have to be connected to sex, but almost everyone I've seen with the hard aspect close, they've been beaten as children, or they had a bully child. I have this aspect very exact. This is my most exact aspect. So that was a common occurrence to get beaten as a child. I thought it was okay. I thought everyone gets beaten up, but turns out it's not normal. And I've been attacked maybe 4 or 5 times with danger to my life, but I have good aspects that help me escape. Always on the verge, so that's a bit of violence, especially because I'm one of the people who introverted my anger for many years. I was not afraid to say my opinion. I was afraid to confront people directly, which is Mars. I was afraid to stand up for myself, and I was afraid to get angry almost, because Pluto can suppress this. And I'll detract it from outside. How many times I've been stalked and attacked, my God, as a child especially, to around 25, 6, and God saved me, thanks God for the good trines, and and because also though those people, when they keep attracting those things from outside, sooner or later it activates in them to experience it in their life, to stop stifling them, to stop hiding it, because Pluto is a hidden energy, it's the god of the underworld. So whatever planet it suspects, it wants to hide it. It wants to subvert it. It wants to hide it in the underworld. So with anger, with sexual frustration, with all these martial activities, with self-expression as well. So they start attracting violence or such kind of situations, or they start self-harming in some way through some behaviors. And these are the worst case scenario. I'm a typical example of a worst case scenario, but it can be transformed. You see, I've transformed it almost. Oh, I hope so. Haven't been stalked or chased or attacked for a while. But anyway, so what happens is you start attacking it, and or you put yourself, or the universe, by introverting it, the universe puts you in situations, whether they're life-threatening, whether they're very such that demand extreme feat of willpower, so you can confront your own self-power, which is Mars. So you can see the power of your will, so you can see the power of your own, ability to act. So such people get put in situations that because they subvert it most often, and what happens is that instead of the universe attracts it from such situations, so they have to face their darker side. So they have to face their anger, they have to face their strength, they have to face even their rage. And when these people, they don't get angry, they either like a volcano suppress, and one day they burst out and go and kill everyone. It's a bit like Saturn and Mars sometimes. You know, they suppress, or like when they get angry, they don't get angry. They rage, you know, because it's so much suppressed that it bursts out, or they attract it from outside sometimes, like I told you, as violence. And these people as well, and often it's not obvious for others around them, because Pluto hides so well whatever planet it aspects, and these people might not look like there's so much anger and frustration, sometimes even, you know, violent thoughts. They're very common, violent reactions to things. Like a normal person, you get cut off on a line, waiting in a line, they might get annoyed. The Pluto Mars person will immediately get images of trashing the person, killing him, you know, something, murderous thoughts, in a sense. And they get scared. Pluto Mars, especially people that are humane, kind, meek, and they have Pluto Mars, and they get scared by their own thoughts of violence. And they try to deny it, so they attract it from outside as violence in some way, or anger, or someone putting them under their thumb, or manipulating them, or they try to reject it. They say, oh, this is not me, or they're so afraid and so ashamed of those thoughts, and they start self-punishing. So that's how it comes, this self-punishing and self-guilt that Mars Pluto has, because most people are kind and gentle. When they have extreme violent thoughts, which Pluto Mars can generate, they think it's shameful, they think it's wrong, they hide this, and they start self-harming in some way. And there should be a healthy outlet for anger, for self-expression, for expressing when you're upset. Don't go murderously angry. And people actually, in very extreme case scenario, these are the ones that can attack others. These are the ones can get violent. These are the ones can kill and rape and murder. This aspect is very common in both in rapers and murders, and both in victims of such people. So, you know, I'm not saying you're rape or a murder, you know, but there are healthy ways. If you start obsessing over those thoughts and indulging in them too much, that's the other extreme. Suppressing them or indulging in them and fantasizing in them, and, you know, that's psychopathic behavior already, you know. But there is a middle ground of healthy expression of Pluto Mars energy, and that is share, like, or confess to yourself when something dirty and something hidden and dark, which is Pluto, in regards to our actions, in regards to our thought, in regards to violent thought, sexually violent images, when it has it, if you hide it from yourself, again, you would attract such people in your life that bring it out from you. Or you would, but if you confess to yourself, speak with someone about those thoughts, bring them to the surface. When you bring the king of the underworld, Pluto, to the surface, he doesn't have power there anymore. Talk with a psychologist. That's why Pluto aspects, any interaspects, the aspects that incline a person to talk to a psychologist to discover the hidden dark side, not to bury the shadow. Pluto is the shadow side, everything we're ashamed of, and we find too dark and disturbing to confess in front of others. But you need to at least confess it to yourself, if you don't want to, some specialist or a friend, and to look at it as, don't give the blame to yourself, you know. Everyone has murderous thoughts. Everyone, it's at moments, you know, it doesn't make you a worse person. Don't self-punish for that. And there is healthy outlet for that. Maybe do a sport where you can go trash someone, you know, like squash. Or do some martial arts, because people with Pluto Mars are very good with martial arts, because Mars is about self-protection and Pluto is the predatory influence. So these people might be drawn to martial arts. Bruce Lee has a Mars-Pluto conjunction opposition, very strong. Steven Seagal, a few people like that who are even in the films, martial arts. Angelina Jolie has the opposition as well. So she's like this martial figure, action figure, and she does martial arts herself, and all her roles are about that. But such people can, you know, this is a healthy outlet where they can vent their anger or go boxing or kickboxing or something. And the other way you can do it is, you know, some kind of sport is always a good outlet for Mars, because when Mars energy is blocked by Pluto, when often this time happens when they're paralyzed to act, to take initiative, to make things happen in their life, because they feel like their actions, you know, this is unregenerated Mars Pluto, you need some energy to unblock it, to start this energy of Mars moving in your life so you can achieve feats. And I'll tell after that about transform Mars Pluto, because this is one amazing the things that you can do with it. But while it is non-transformed, while it is unregenerated, it feels like your Mars is trapped in the underworld. So your ability to assert yourself, your ability to fight for yourself, your ability to make things happen, you feel frozen sometimes, and this anger starts building up in you, Anyway, we said how it can self-sabotage the self by self-hurt or whatever. I'm not going to repeat it. So what happens is, sometimes for this energy of Mars to be released from the underground, you need to make a shift by giving it more energy, and energy comes into the body by some physical sport, so it's very good for these people to have an outlet like this. And there is another way of healing Pluto Mars, untransformed or generated. I said sharing, talking about your violent thoughts and images. I'll do this with my friends, and I'll talk about sexuality a bit later because this makes people sexually complicated. Some sports, and also through Mars is always healed through Venus. Venus is the only planet that can heal Mars in a sense. So from learning, giving themselves a double dose of self-love, such people. Stop blaming themselves, accepting themselves, pampering themselves, giving themselves, loving thoughts, love and forgiveness to others, because these people can bear a grudge for a long time, especially if Mars and Pluto in fixed signs, It's the hurt and the trauma that they can experience, maybe. And often, as I said, there is usually abuse in some way in childhood, and they can keep it for, this anger can stay even if they hide it from themselves and they thought they've forgotten it. It can come to the surface and make them, so self-hurting in some way as well. Anyway, but so they have to learn to forgive, to give themselves a dose of Venus, a dose of Venusian behavior, forgiveness, love, kindness to themselves. And usually this happens when a person matures a bit more. But when Mars is transformed, Mars Pluto is transformed, when the person has been confronted through life situations, from feeling powerless and being the victim of some predatory energies most often, to owning their own power. Because Mars is about willpower. Mars is about your strength, and Pluto is empowering planet. So once this energy is transformed, these people become extremely empowered. They become people with the strongest willpower are the Pluto Mars people. And this is such an irony, because usually when they're young, their willpower was taken away from them by some act of violence or consistent undermining in some way. And it's more invasive rather than just undermining. And later in life, these people become the most empowered people. They can become the most transformed people and help others regain their sense of strength, their sense of belief that they can make things happen, which is Mars. Making things happen, asserting yourself, owning your power, rather than projecting it to others in violent ways by you being violent, or introverting it and attracting violence from others. So for everyone, it can manifest in different ways, either self-harm and attracting violence from outside, or you being bullied and having murderous behaviors and thoughts and anger and rage towards others. Often it can be expressed outwardly, but both things are extremes, because Pluto is the planet of extremes, black and white. I don't know willpower, or go and run the Iron Man marathon. Go and decide to save the world, Go and try to transform the whole world with your actions. And some people, Gandhi had Mars, Pluto. He wasn't a violent, but he wanted to transform the whole world with his actions, and he managed to do it, So look at the transform Mars Pluto, the feats it can do. It's undescribable, uncomparable to any other combination. And I used to feel so powerless. I thought I had no willpower. And life put me in situations where I self-harm, when I had to battle addictions. Addictions is one of the biggest things that you might have to show willpower to overcome. So I'm not saying I'm a hero or something, but I didn't want to go through that. Life put me through that. And Pluto Mars people, they're survivors. when the knife gets to here, this is when the energy gets activated. If it's a bit of abuse, a bit of danger, they tolerate when you're younger, they might not have no choice. But later in age, the more mature they become, they're survivors. These people learn how to survive, and often they were put in hard situations where they've learned to survive. I've been robbed on gunpoint, with knives, whatnot. I don't want to tell you. I've lived on the streets. I've experienced every despicable thing that's happened in the world. Well, hopefully not every. I don't want to attract the devil, but Pluto Mars people, they're familiar with the dark side of humans. They're familiar, and I used to reject this side of me, and I used to attract it. And they're familiar with sorry about that. Yes, we have a few more minutes to record. They're not shocked by the dark and violent behaviors of people, by their secrets or their taboo behavior. I mean, my case is extreme. My opposition is so exact. Not for everyone it will be in such big strength, but there will be, in some smaller ways, definitely you'll feel it if the aspect is a bit wider, or it won't be so intense, but you can catch yourself with such intense rages or feeling frozen sometimes, and then the universe puts you in situations where you have to own your own power. When you're put in life and death situation, you mobilize yourself. This is what Pluto Mars does. Often such people are put in life and death situations and such people, I've seen people who have AIDS or cancer that with Pluto Mars, this is when they really mobilize their power and they get to the peak of their physical health. Maybe before that they were sloppy. Maybe before that they didn't live health. Maybe before that they never exercised their willpower. Something extreme happens in their life, like an extreme illness, which is Pluto is extremes, and they mobilize their willpower, Mars, like no one else. And they manage to outlive everyone else, and beat cancer and beat incurable diseases and things like that. But the scary thing is that they often get put in such situations where it requires such feats of willpower and strength, and because they're here to develop this inhuman willpower, let's almost say. And often they feel like they have no willpower. This is the irony with them. And they turn out to be the most people with the strongest willpower. And I used to have to remind myself all the time when I struggled with addictions in my early 20s. I had to remind, I have Mars, Pluto. I know I can get out of this. I know I can survive, because I was close to giving up often. I was close to losing my life. And Pluto Uranus was, you survive. You survive. It's just if you want someone to thrive in crisis situations, on the battlefield, when everyone is falling apart, get yourself a Mars Pluto person. They get activated when or like they say, the knife hits the neck, basically. Their willpower will be like no one else. They get activated then. So someone in emergency, in extreme situations, someone that needs inhuman willpower to transform the world in some way, or to transform some business or some area with their actions, because Mars is actions and Pluto is transformation. These people can make, a change. They say one person can't change the world. Well, Pluto Mars person, one person can change the world. And people who has this, Gordon Ramsay, look, he has such huge issues with anger. This is Mars Pluto, explosive. He doesn't get angry, he rages. And you have to see me as well. I'm so sweet and nice all the time. But I started owning my Pluto recently, and when I was younger, I'd be sweet and nice till I beat someone up. Or sweet and nice till I attack my husband with, But now I learn how to own it, how to channel it, not into aggression and into self-harming, but into fighting for some cause, because Mars is fighting, into trying to transform others through my career, and and challenging my willpower with feats of, with certain feats of, like working out and going for 10-mile walks, and things like that. And they, such people can, through their willpower, first they feel like they don't have it. Later on, they become and they teach and they can help others do this. Let's see. Mars is also your sexuality. Talking about anger issues, Naomi Campbell has this combination, the difficult one. And talking about, Gordon Ramsay, but look, someone like Sigourney Weaver also has it, and her roles are the ones where she's strong, and Angelina Jolie is the one that is the action figure, and is the one that goes and, you know, changes the world in some way, you know, or battles with demons. Sigourney Weaver, Pluto is demons. It's demonic influence sometimes, it's the shadow dark side. And Sigourney Weaver, what does she do? She battles with evil. She battles with aliens, you know, with this demonic being. Is very Plutonic, predator influence, you know. Pluto is very predatory. Malcolm X has this combination. He fought for the rights of black people, and he was people like that, they fight for controversial and taboo things which no one else would dare touch. And their fight is a big fight, you know. Like Gandhi, for example, the rights of India, the liberation of India, willpower, which is inhuman again, that's required almost. And Malcolm X, they go against something that is taboo, that is forbidden, that is wrong in society, or that everyone is afraid to go towards. And also, Stalin had that, but he was the negative expression of Pluto Mars. He was so paranoid, he was so afraid that people will kill him, which is Mars, Pluto, you know, that he would kill everyone else instead. He killed 20 million people through hunger and fear and whatnot. But look, it can be transformed. Russell Brand was self-harming, was through drugs and stupid actions. Now he is this activist that wants to transform the world, and they said, like, you know, with his ranting about politics and spirituality, he's changing a lot of people. So this is again someone who is putting his Pluto Mars in the right place, going against all the institutions about everything, you know. But anyway, let's talk about a bit the sexuality of Pluto Mars people, because Mars is sexuality, and they have forbidden, taboo sexual images, often violent sexual images. I remember from the age of 5, I started having violent sexual images, and I didn't even know what it meant, but I was feeling some kind of a weird satisfaction by imagining women killed, and I mean extreme things, and my parents were worried. I started drawing those things, and I've never seen this. There was no television in Bulgaria when I was 5, 6 years old, you know. There was no such magazines, just communist propaganda. Where did these violent images of women being killed, sexually abused, where did they come from? I didn't know. My parents were so worried. I went to counseling, whatnot. And later on, I found out with past life regression that I've been a victim in past lives of basically slave trade and with women, and there was a memory of this. So basically, I kept it as a child. These images came up. And they were strangely satisfying, you know, sexually almost in a perverted way. And these stuck with me for almost till 25, 30 years of age. You know, so it is, it's been transformed over the last 10 years, I would say. But they stuck for many years, and people are ashamed to have such fantasies sometimes. Imagine a church-going, nice housewife, they would confess to me, I have perverse or extreme sexual fantasies sometimes, or fantasies that include some kind of violence, some kind of abuse, some kind of S&M. It's okay, and don't be ashamed of this. You know, you might attract it through a negative other way. Just maybe talk about it. Don't take it as something so horrible. Don't blame yourself. Maybe it's due because you were a victim of sexual abuse in a past life. And as you know, often victims start feeling a perverse, it's like a protection, it's like survival mechanism. In order to endure the abuse, they start turning it into some kind of a pleasure and experiencing a weird such fine pleasure, like children that were abused as little, when they grow up, they might turn into pedophiles, which is, you know, this is how the subconscious works. So, but instead of hiding your demons, instead of, you know, just doing secretive actions about them, try to, you know, through healthy, transformative ways to let go of them, to release them by putting Mars for the right actions, for fighting for the right causes, and, you know, or just training your will in powerful ways. And for example, who has this? Like Woody Allen has Pluto Mars, so he has a taboo sexual relationship with his daughter, adopted daughter. You know, Angelina Jolie had it, and she used to talk about her sexual fascination with blood and, you know, knives, using knives in sex. This is okay, you know, that these things exist. Roman Polanski had that, and he did this movie about Damien, the demon, you know, about child sacrifice. These are all Satanism and child sacrifice. It's very Pluto Mars things, because it's child abuse and child sacrifice. And it turned out he himself he was a pedophile child abuser, you know. And I'm not saying everyone with this position will be child abuser and pedophile. Oprah Winfrey has it, and she's transforming the world through her action. She's someone who transforms this energy, you know. The transform. Osama bin Laden has it. Terrorism. Mars, Pluto is terrorism. These people might become victims of terrorism, or might be attracted by terrorism or conspiracy theories, the dark side of life. But Martin Scorsese has it, and he was writing about gangs, about mobs, you know, all these movies he did about the mob, or about dirty money and the sex in the industry, in the big money financial industry. You know, The Wolf of Wall Street was Martin Scorsese movie. It's very Pluto Mars movie, just like Goodfellas and movies like that. You know, he talked about violence, crime, the mafia. This is all Mars, Pluto things, and people like that often maybe have had experiences there. Let's see. So there is this. Did we miss something? So there might be also interest in magic and the occult. These people can be amazing white or black magicians, whatever they choose, because they have powerful abilities to manifest through their actions and through the hidden occult powers. Kundalini is the sexual energy, and Mars and Pluto both rule the sexual energy. These people can open their chakra through sexual energy. They can. I wouldn't advise practicing Kundalini because it's dangerous, but sex can be transformative experience for them. Sex might turn in different parts of their life. They can like extremely different things sexually, and they can transform from maybe dark sexual fantasies to some kind of a tantric sexual deep experience that, you know, or maybe from some block and fearful sexual experience, even from abusive experience. They can transform it later in life into an amazing ability to connect with someone sexually on a, you know, almost on a. But often for normal people, Pluto Mars will manifest more on this more bestial side of sexuality or attraction to this. And I mean, even Gwyneth Paltrow has that. She doesn't strike you as someone, you know. You can be two goody shoes and still have those thoughts and those inclinations sometimes, and you can transform them to transformational sexual experience. Such people can be sex therapists, because Pluto is about digging to the bottom of something, and Mars is sexual problems in any way, or sexuality of a person, and Pluto can transform another sexuality, transform another sexual blockages. Let's see if we find. We said they can be ruthless with others or with themselves when they're introverted as well, and have amazing willpower, initially maybe lacking it. They can have sexually cathartic experiences. First, maybe they would have a few sexually traumatic experiences, very likely, with Pluto Mars, and then they would have sexually cathartic experiences. I think we mentioned everything. Sometimes I need to remind myself. And yes, taken by force is something that Mars-Pluto people have experienced in their life. And they work towards transformation so they don't repeat those patterns. Maybe something was taken by force, they were taken by force or something, but they have to transform this to empower others rather than take by force. The positive manifestation of Pluto Mars is empowering others, transforming the world through your actions, showing feats of amazing willpower, doing the surviving the unsurvivable, surviving the most intense conditions, the most basically put in the middle of a desert, you know, alone. This Mars Pluto person might be able to survive, you know, and this is by experiencing such difficult situations, such superhuman demanding situations, in a sense, willpower. They're or traumatic. They confront their own power and they learn to own it rather than to give it or introvert it and hurt themselves or attract it from others, or spill it out on others by taking their own power. So this is what I have to say to you about Pluto Mars. Very interesting combinations. these people can be surgeons as well, because Mars is surgeries, Pluto is digging and, transforming something. Surgeons is good. Any kind of a intense transformational career. So even physical therapists that have to physical activity or physical exercise to transform the health of another person or to transform the health and fitness regime of another person. The trauma therapists, Mars is, any kind of accidents and breakages, and Pluto is transforming again through some kind of therapy. Psychotherapists, sex therapists, hypnotherapists, digging into the bottom and finding out. And these people, if they grow and if they live, which they usually do, to transform their Mars and Pluto to the higher level, from victims they turn, and from people who've had predators around them, they turn, or even who had very dark, unregenerated thoughts, violent, murderous, they learn to own their power, and they learn how to overcome these obsessive actions, activities, thoughts, even dark ones, and to transform them for empowering of others. Thank you.